So there's this video, making Classic Plus #1 follow the money. This is from like a former game dev or like a current game dev. It's 45 minutes, but like it looks like it would be a good video to watch. It only has 1,000 views though. Pre-watched. I have a couple YouTube editors on my account, so my YouTube editors watch the videos. Yeah, anyway, I do want to watch this. It's a little longer, but we could. It only has 1,000 views, but like multiple people actually linked this to me. He's a former, I don't think he's a WoW dev. He's a former dev for other games. I'm not sure which games. And he's talking about Classic Plus from like a dev's perspective. So anyway, let's take a look at what he has to say.
It makes sense. The numbers make sense. Hey everyone, welcome back.
The numbers do make sense. I've said this before. This is the most copium take. Like, I have a lot of copium takes, but this is my most copium take. Ready? You guys ready for this? Let's inhale that copium. Retail is currently the largest Western MMO, I think. Probably. Right? It probably has, let's say like 3 to 5 million players or whatever. I don't know. That's a lot of people. Right? But when you're marketing retail, who do you market to, right? Like it's a tough game to sell in the market because old WoW players have already quit for one reason or another and like don't really want to come back, okay? Maybe they'll try it, but then they'll quit like a month later. But like, that's kind of how it goes, right? Like there's like 100 million plus people that have ever played WoW, at least conservatively, I think. And a lot of them are just like, I'm done, right? Like it's not what I want anymore. They quit for one reason or another, and they might try and look, but like really they're just kind of done, right? So you have this like, 5 million, 4 million, 3 million subscriber number, but it like continues to slowly dwindle. And you can't really market to the people that previously played your game. And the new players that want to maybe check out a new game, like kids, aren't really looking into MMOs. Okay, so my theory is Classic Plus can market to that 100 million plus people that quit WoW for whatever reason ever. I quit because of this or that or that or that or that or that. You market to those 100 plus million people, right? And it's just this massive audience, much larger than the audience you can market for with retail, like way larger, right? And not only that, it's like this cultural thing that like maybe kids will actually check it out too. But like that's not the point. The point is you can actually market to this 100 million plus pool of people that like quit for whatever reason ever. Whereas retail doesn't have that capacity anymore. They kind of blew it. They've lost that. So do the numbers make sense? Absolutely. Oh, anyway, getting to the copium take. I think Classic Plus long term has potential to have more active players than retail. That's my copium take. I've been saying it for like a year or two. It's like, I know it's copium. I know that sounds crazy, but like I actually think it's true. And I'm not gonna say it is going to. What I'm saying is it has the potential to if Blizzard does it right. That's all I'm saying. It has the potential to if Blizzard does it right. That's it. That's all I'm saying. So that's my copium take of the day and of the year, maybe of the decade. There we go.
I'm Dave, and this is
Hi,
Dave on
Dave.
Dev. I got a lot of really great feedback on my last video from you guys in the comments where people were saying that they'd love to hear more about a developer's perspective on how someone like me might go about making Classic Plus. So this is going to be a short video series where we take a look at how would we make Classic Plus, and I'm going to walk that path with you. And it's also going to look at this from the lens of a developer and things that I'm familiar with in terms of getting projects approved and getting initial budgets, and also moving from that point to actually doing development with a team, scaling up, hitting milestones, and delivering and shipping. There's actually a lot that goes into that first part of project development that people don't see and also people don't really appreciate that much. So when we're talking about like how would we actually make Classic Plus, I really want to start at the beginning. How do we think it went at Blizzard when they were trying to approve whether or not they're going to do Classic Plus in the first place? The reason I want to do that is because some of those early decisions and assumptions about the project shape and the challenge and the goals
It's a good question to be
going
asking.
to shape a lot of the decision making or a lot of the pillars or a lot of the business model even for the game when it actually does eventually come out. It's not really just as simple as looking at good features and making the game fun and all of that. But when you're looking at the why would a business even do this project in the first place?
Is it going to make money?
You kind of
right?
have to weigh a number of different factors. If this is interesting for you, this video is going to be all about that. and I'm going to try to share as much knowledge as I can. And I will say that, this is from my perspective.
It's about money, but it's also about like opportunity cost. Like with this amount of dev time and dev resources and stuff like that, like what else could we actually be doing? Is this the best possible thing that we could be doing with our time, right? Like that is this endeavor something that we should actually embark upon? Like should we do this?
Perspective in games. Everybody has a different experience. Everybody works at different companies. I'm not affiliated with Blizzard or Microsoft or Activision in any way. I don't have any sort of insider knowledge into how it's actually going there. So this is just speculation from my side and some experience sprinkled in from stuff that I've done and projects I've worked on. Okay, so first things first, how would we actually get corporate or business approval for Classic Plus to be a project at all? And this is something people really skip in the discussion so far. People really look at Classic Plus the game, but today we're going to look at Classic Plus the project and see how would we even get that project approved in the first place. This is long before any team member even starts to move their hands across the keyboard or make any kind of content. This is really about getting through those business hurdles at a corporate level and trying to get sign off on the project to have an approved budget and a timeline and a goal set, and then start moving into development. Okay, so let's walk through the financial stuff first. I think that's kind of the easiest one to understand, and we'll get into more of like the business logic after that. So yeah, today is not really the exciting game design stuff that people like to talk about in their videos. It's going to be more on like the boring corporate and business side. But if you're interested in that and you want to know more about that, then this is going to be a great video. We will get into the design and the nitty gritty of like features and content and all that stuff in future videos. So stick with the channel. There's going to be more of that coming. There is part of a project's life cycle that starts very early on something like a discretionary budget for companies where it may not have like an official project billing code yet, which is important in a corporate structure because you need to report where earnings and spend go. And having a billing code for a project makes it real. Means you can assign people to it, but you can still work on stuff early days like ideation and concept phase without a billing code. You usually have to do a bunch of that work before you can even pitch to corporate or pitch to stakeholders and shareholders that you want to move forward with a project in the first place. So that early development is important and kind of is off the books. If Classic Plus was doing anything like this, it would either be easy for them to like incorporate it into retail or other WoW, or to have some sort of like Blizzard-wide discretionary budget where they did some sort of initial concepting or ideation or just work to get themselves to a pitch deck that they would then use to get the actual approval for the project. We do need to like kind of build a foundation of assumptions and truths that we're going to assume are true to like lead us towards things like getting to game design pillars and getting to a content roadmap and stuff like that. There's one in particular that comes to mind. I know people may or may not agree with. I do want to hear what you guys think too. But some of this stuff we just kind of need to like lay the groundwork so that we can move forward. And that's part of what we'll do in this video. Okay, so let's get started finally.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So why even do Classic Plus? Why even do this project in the first place? And it comes down to really two main ideas to me. One is leverage, this idea of leverage. And the other one is opportunity cost. And those are really the two things we need to satisfy to make sure that like Classic Plus actually makes sense as a project for Blizzard. If I'm running the show at Blizzard, I'm really looking at these two things. Now that they're part of like Activision and Blizzard and this bigger corporate machinery, these are also really important concepts for them because you want to make sure that you are actively optimizing how you're deploying your resources, people, assets, capital, all of these things. You want to make good use of your advantages, good use of your position. Blizzard has lots of these, which is great. It does make us question why we would do Classic Plus instead of anything else in the same place. And then opportunity cost is why would we do this instead of say something like put the same people on retail or put the same people on Overwatch 2 or whatever. And it's more of the real price tag, like it's more of the real cost to develop.
I mean, Warcraft has like I'm a little biased to say this. But do we all agree here as World of Warcraft enjoyers that Warcraft has the best IP in all of gaming? Is that a crazy claim to make? Let me think about this for a second. Okay, like if we don't want to use a superlative, we don't have to use best, but like we could say like top, like one of the best in all of gaming, right? I think like a lot of you guys are saying yes already, but like could we all agree it's very, very top tier Like Warcraft IP, like I would probably call it the best. I'm pretty biased here. Like you guys are biased too if you're watching a WoW stream. But anyway, so like I think the leverage is there, right? Like you have something that is going to call to all classic WoW fans that have ever touched WoW before. It's going to resonate with them, like kind of the same way that 2019 classic WoW relaunch resonated on the mainstream way more than any other expansion ever did, right? Like 2019 classic, when it came to like concurrent players, viewers on Twitch, like all of this stuff just like blew everything out of the water. Like it was so big. It was like this like cultural moment because it's like, holy crap, this is World of Warcraft relaunching, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, leverage is more than there. So then we talk about opportunity costs. Like what else are you going to do that could trump this? Like really? Like I'll sit there and wait. Like really? Like come on. Are you kidding me? Surf Mesa, thanks for the sub. And come on. WoW 2, I don't think that trumps that because then you're dropping your great IP, or like a lot of it at least. StarCraft, no way StarCraft would trump it. Like monetary wise, we talked about how one mount in WoW made maybe not more or as much or like around the same amount as StarCraft did in its entirety. Like that's crazy. So yeah, like it has both of those things.
Development, this opportunity cost and leverage cost. Also, whether it's worth it is much bigger than just how much money is it going to make. It is part of it, but there are a lot of other things that factor into business strategy for companies.
Like, so we've talked about this, and like this is another copium take. It's like there's loss leaders for companies where like when you go into Costco, you have the rotisserie chickens in the back, and like they're a really good deal. Like they're a lot of food, good, like they're pretty well priced, but you have to actually like drive to Costco and go there, and they're in the back. So you're getting customers in the door that walk through the rest of your store and buy all your other higher margin products. It's like, okay, so that's good. You get people in the door for a good deal essentially, but then they're going to buy other stuff. Or like at a restaurant, you have your drinks, which are much higher margin, and then you have like all the food and like happy hour stuff to get people in the door. Or another example, like I mean Amazon has done this a lot. I watched an interview with Jeff Bezos like 20 years ago, and he was talking about like early Amazon. They had like a lot of their products actually just like lose money. Like they actually lost money on the sale, only like a little bit, but like a tiny bit, but just to gain that customer loyalty. So they would come back like and buy the other stuff later, which is like I thought was interesting. Another example, old school RuneScape and RS3, right? Like RS3 is their higher margin stuff. Like they actually make money. Like Jagex makes the bulk of their money, from what I understand, from RS3. But old school has a larger player base. So you're like getting people into the door with old school and making your margin on RS3. Anyway, my preferred business strategy for Blizzard would be that Classic Plus is the loss leader. It is what you're kind of getting people through the door with. You're not necessarily making it into your cash cow, but it's supporting the entire engine. It's getting people back into the Warcraft franchise that then might buy the next retail expansion because they want to check it out, see where the lore goes. They might check out that next retail expansion and buy a few mounts. So you monetize on retail, but you get people in the door on Classic Plus. That's my copium. How cool would that be? Then we have a great game that's not being squeezed for cash, but instead getting people into the door to then get squeezed on retail, I guess. But you know what I'm saying? Like that would be great. Holy copium. It's a lot of copium. But like that would be cool.
So for instance, does this project represent something that is helping us get better at something that we are positioning to be the best in the world at? So if your company strategy revolves around getting really good at doing one thing, having more projects that either get you more iterations on getting good at that one thing, or build tools around it, or proprietary advantages or engines or whatever, those are like good ways that like positioning might actually validate a project's existence more than just like how much it's going to make in the marketplace. And also, Blizzard isn't just on its own anymore as a studio. It's been part of Activision for a long time, and now as part of Microsoft, it really has to factor into this larger portfolio of studios and the business that Microsoft is running. So when it comes down to goals and metrics or KPIs or anything that Blizzard has to meet at a corporate level, they have to try to fit into that higher level strategy. Now, I don't know what sort of full autonomy they have. I would just assume that at the highest levels, at like the bottom line financial levels and everything, they do need to like fit into whatever goals are being set at the highest levels of Microsoft. So if they have like a publicly stated goal of being, you know, focused on their margins or something, they want to be more like 30% margins across the board, whatever it might be, all the decision making that's happening within Blizzard at a studio level for projects, even if they can greenlight and sign off their own projects, still has to fit into this larger business goal background that's happening within the total corporate machinery. So in my experience, the project pitching process usually is a long drawn out process that involves a number of different parts of the business all working together to create a big slide deck or plan or pitch deck. Project is being pitched to the executive team. You have pretty much everybody involved from the game and development team, usually showing things like concept art or doing feature proposals, planning, costing,
went black
risks,
for a second.
stuff like that.
Thought my internet
you
went
also
out.
have deep dives from marketing teams that are going to try to figure out like what does the audience look like for a game. And really what they're trying to do is figure out if it makes sense on all the different aspects. Every project, no matter what it is, has risks. You could have risks for doing it. Well, it might be like a stress on the team, or we might, you know, in the case of Classic Plus, we might have like a risk of cannibalizing some of our market share or our audience share with retail or whatever that might be. So there's all these risks for doing a project, but there's also risks for not doing a project.
I think in the past I was like nervous with cannibalization, not the marketing term. I know someone out there. When you're Blizzard and you launch a product and it's like, okay, well, what happens if we launch this thing and we're stealing players from retail, which is actually our higher margin product, and we're bringing them into a lower margin product? Now we're just losing money. Like, that sucks. And like, that's a fair concern. I think the reality is though that, and I think businesses are like really aware when they do this, is that if you don't create your own competition, someone else will. And that's why, like, when you see like these candy bar companies like Nestle that own like all of them, and it's like, why did they do that? It's like, well, we can at least have all of these different subsidiary companies that make these different products that can compete with each other in unique ways, and then we own them all, versus we own one and then there's going to be competitors anyway. So maybe Blizzard's like aware of this and they're like, okay, this is going to be a problem, let's make it into a problem that we own versus a problem that we don't own, right? I was actually thinking, I can't believe how hard Blizzard fumbled the bag on Dota. I would actually like to learn more about this. I was thinking about this after playing Warcraft 3, and then I played League. Like, Blizzard had Dota like from a custom game in Warcraft 3, and then like Dota 2 and League are just like massive, and like Blizzard makes HOTS. I feel like that's gotta be like a movie one day. Like, how did this happen? Like, how did that happen? I actually am just like, what? Like, how did Blizzard make HOTS and then League and Dota got spun off of Warcraft 3? That is crazy. HOTS got released too late, but it's actually pretty good. Yeah, I'm not trying to like slam HOTS here, but like, what was it, 10 years after League? Maybe not that long, 8 maybe? When did HOTS actually come out compared to League? Maybe less, maybe 5 to 8 years later. I don't know. Like, it was like many years later, right? I would love to learn more about that. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, it was late. Yeah, I don't know. There's probably a lot more there. Anyway, that's got to be the biggest fumble. Anyway, we're going on a tangent now, but I was thinking about that in the shower the other day, and I'm just like, sheesh, how did that happen?
But what if we don't do this project now? Pretty important time for Classic Plus and for Blizzard in terms of timing, because as you can see, there's just so many different like private servers and interests. It's almost like back when they wanted to do Classic and you had Nostalrius and all these other servers going on. It was almost like if they didn't do it, there was more of a risk to not doing the project. And I feel like we're getting to that point with Classic Plus. Ideally, if it all goes well and everybody's lined up and it makes sense, projects get approved. And they get approved into sometimes a conditional pre-production, sometimes into full, here's your budget. I would sort of expect something like this to have maybe gotten a very early conditional approval stage. My true hunch is actually that this was pitched years ago, and Agrand and his team got a conditional approval to do something small, which they then
Sod, yeah.
either was initially or turned into Season of Discovery.
Yeah.
But I think Season of Discovery is like a test case that didn't cost them really too much of anything. But
that's probably spot on, right? Do we agree with this? That Sod was a conditional, like it had to succeed. It had to hit a certain metric, certain number of raiders, certain number of active users to be like, okay, yes, this is an endeavor that we should be looking into. You know, 100%. Yeah, probably pretty much was what Sod was.
Everything that they would have needed for this project, especially in the pitch and proposal.
Thanks for the sub, Wenicky.
I don't think the full-on green light approval at a corporate level happened for Classic Plus until maybe phase 1 or phase 2 of Season of Discovery, where the proof was in the pudding at that point, right? The proof was in the numbers. There's only so much that can go into like a slide deck before you've got a test like that. But it's
imagine phase 1 Sod comes out and there's like 500,000 weekly raiders, because there was, and it was like crazy successful, and then Blizzard like approves Classic Plus, and then phase 2 comes out and it's like pretty okay as well, and Blizzard's like yeah, and then like phase 3 comes out and it just like Sod dies, and Blizzard's like, oh crap, we already approved this thing, except no one's playing now. Like that would be an interesting meeting to sit in on.
As soon as you've got something like Season of Discovery fueling all the metrics and numbers and insights, and you know, you've got all this development proof as well that went into Season of Discovery, then that proposal is like super compelling. You know, it's really easy to look at all the aspects of that and say, okay, here's the exact shape of this. This is exactly what we want in the portfolio. Here's where it fits, and here's how we're going to do it. But it still has to make sense on paper when it comes down to what would the spend look like? What's the timeline? What's the content and scope? What would the team look like? Where would the team come from? Which is another really important one. And then what's the business model? How much could it make? How do we shape the offering and the product? How do players spend money on it? And there is some sort of like corporate voodoo calculus that usually happens too. What I'm used to from my experience is that typically the development costs have to line up in a way where if you're going to spend this much on the development cost before it comes out, conservative case is at least 4 times what the development spend would be. Typically, there's a few scenarios for how the game could do once it launches. So there's like a very pessimistic outlook or a conservative outlook or really, you know, optimistic outlook. So if it sells this well or this well or this well, and I think that that's going to give us a really kind of clear hint to how much Blizzard might have been spending on this, how big the team might be, because I have a feeling we can do some rough math to figure out how much they might make in the first year conservatively, which would be the math maybe that went into the decision making that they used on their end in the background. So
I mean, I don't really know how we would do this math until we've understood how they're going to monetize this thing. I've talked to you guys in the past, and like there's some options, like you do nothing and make it free like Sod, like that's my preferred, but like that's some cope, right? Like let's be honest, there's a box price, you know, anywhere between like 30 and 60 bucks, and it's like if the box price means no shop, maybe that's a good thing. There's obviously the monthly sub, like we can all guarantee there'll be a monthly sub, right? Like it'll probably be the same thing with like classic, like the monthly sub included in all your other WoWs, like Sod era retail classic. It'll be like another offering to bolster the value proposition of the monthly WoW sub. But I'm curious if there's going to be other models too, like a shop is one. I think most people would hate there to be a shop. Would you guys all agree rather have a box price than a shop? Like if like it's not really a fair comparison because it's not just one or the other. It's a false dichotomy here. But if it let's set this up for a second. If it is this way, yeah, box price obviously, right? We'll see. I don't know. I hope like I said, my hope would be that it's just kind of like Sod. You know, it's free. A bunch of people can hop in and play it. It'll get more subs. Like people will sub to play it, which isn't free. I mean, you're paying your $15 a month, so it's not free. It's a sub. I would hope it's just a sub. Like that would be cool. But like I just don't. I don't know. I wouldn't mind a box price and a sub, I guess, if the box price is like what would be a fair box price that you guys would be willing to pay, or even like somewhat excited to pay. Like, oh, I like that's fine. Like I'm gonna pay that, and like I can't wait to hop in and play. Like a lot of people are saying 30. Or like 30 or 40. Okay. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Like I said, I think it would be cool if it was free, no shop, and just with a sub, just like SOD. Like that would be sick. But that's, I mean, I don't even know if I'm on enough copium for that, right? Like, I don't know.
So about business model, this is going to be the hot take portion of the video. I think it's been interesting that Camelot has been leaked, like or data mined. This whole thing about them registering a new SKU set, both for normal and heroic. I think that is a really strong indication that Classic Plus is coming. What I haven't seen anyone talking about yet, though, is whether or not there's going to be a separate subscription for Classic Plus.
No, I don't think so. Like, I mean, hey, maybe I'm wrong, but like for me, I think they want it on one sub. The reason they want it on one sub is because they want people coming in to check out Classic Plus, and then like 3 months later, maybe they're raid logging a report or whatever, and they're like, wait a minute, I have a retail sub too. Let me go buy the newest, like I can log in, but I can't really play, so let me buy the newest expansion, right? Like there would be no reason to have a separate sub because they want that crossover, right? They like that crossover is very profitable.
And I think that this is very possible. I think that the math you need to end up doing here is trying to figure out if you release Classic Plus with a different SKU for box product. So it comes out and here's the Classic Plus box product. You buy normal or heroic version, whatever. And then it has a separate subscription behind that. So you don't get retail and you don't get the rest of whatever, but maybe you, I don't know, maybe Classic Era as part of it or something. That's like details to figure out. But I just can picture a future where Classic Plus is its own box product and it's completely on a different timeline, almost justified by the lore and the world building also, right? Because it's taking the world in a different direction. Now, why?
We don't really know that either. We were actually talking about this morning. Is Classic Plus taking the lore into a different direction, or is Classic Plus just telling the untold stories of the past? We don't know. I think most people kind of just want it telling the untold stories of the past and not changing the lore on an alternate timeline. But we don't know. Blizzard could do either one, or maybe a mix of both. But we don't know that. We actually don't know that. I mean, I was talking to you guys this morning about it, and a lot of people seem to think, don't change the lore, don't do an alternate timeline route, but just do the untold stories of the past and flesh them out a little bit. So, well, I mean, we'll see.
Why would I even be thinking about this? How many people did Classic just re-inject into World of Warcraft? Either by people that now like re-up their subscription, or people who got a subscription to retail and all that, but also for people that were playing retail and now they just moved over and they were playing Classic. I think that was like a really great revitalization. But I do wonder, and I know Blizzard has probably done this, what's the math on how much money they left on the table if Classic didn't have a separate subscription? I would bet you that they wish they could have gone back in time and changed it so that like we're going to come out with Classic, but it's not part of just the regular retail sub. And I think that Classic Plus might be a way to get that to come back to a reality.
Okay, new question. What if Classic Plus did have a separate sub? I don't think it will, but say it did, but there was no box price and no shop. So no shop, no box price. All it was a separate sub. Would you guys be like excited about that? W, non-issue, W, down. So like that could happen. I really don't see that happening. I really don't. I think they want that cross-pollination. There's no way that happens, right? But I mean, seems like people would kind of like that.
Because people want Classic Plus desperately. You know, people want it really bad. I can see this being the point where they go, okay, we're now going to have a separate subscription, maybe the same price, maybe slightly discounted, who knows. Also, when you do the math on the project, so bringing it back to why would we even do Classic Plus in the first place, you now have kind of a different scenarios where you can not guarantee, but you can at least have some bets where if this is a conservative outlook for how the game might do, this is how much we would make on the box product, call it 80-20 or 60-40 or whatever for normal and heroic. You can do that math. And then you can also do the math for the first year of like, you know, based on numbers like SOD or Classic or something like that. You can see how many people come for the hype for, you know, just the start of it, and then how many people tail off through the year. And you can say that within the first year, we have the box product release, and we have the subscription, which is separate. Here's how much money Classic Plus could make in year one. And if you take that number and divide that by 4, that probably is like a good indication of how much they would want to spend on the development budget to ensure that, like, as a safe bet, this kind of makes sense. Now, that might not end up being the total final number for how much gets spent on development, because it's just the project approval, which, you know, early budgets don't tend to hold up all the way through. Just how it is. You know, then what you plan to make on the conservative estimate is like 4 to 5 times that amount in year one. So that's like that math. So let's run that math. I want to say the conservative estimate for how many people would play Classic Plus is probably about 1 million at launch. I think that that is a reasonable number. I think a lot of people may agree with that. It could be more, it could be less, it could be lots. You know, it could be like 5 million.
I would hope it's more than that, but like I'm the copium guy, right? Like I would think it would be way higher than that, like probably. But sure, like if we're gonna do a conservative estimate, I would like to see the math though. Like let's be honest. If you guys had to guess how Blizzard is gonna monetize, say you were betting on it, right? What would you bet on? Because I have my thought. Everyone's saying cash shop. Oh man, I was gonna say like a box price. Like, oh man, I hope there's no shop. I hope there's no shop. If there is a shop, I hope there's no player power, and I hope there's no shop. I just hope there's no shop at all. Yeah.
And who knows? If we just take that number for now and use that as our conservative anchor point, 60% of people would buy like the normal version pricing of the box game, and we can assume the base price from the expansions. And then 40% would buy the heroic one. I think they're dropping this middle tier, you know, epic, whatever, and they just have normal and heroic. So I want to put the pricing for heroic at the max and say 40% buy that one. And then we take 1 million people with the subscription for 12 months and we apply the fall off that we saw.
Is it really 60-40? I mean, I've never worked in the game industry. Like, well, I guess I am working in the game industry because I'm a streamer. But you know what I mean? Is it actually 60-40 with how many people would buy the heroic edition? I always assumed it was like 5% of people. I mean, I'm probably wrong. I always assumed it was like 5% or like 10% get the more expensive one. Like very low.
With classic or with SOD, and we try to get an estimate of
Rubens,
like how many people would actually retain through the year or how many people would fall off, and times that by the regular subscription price. That means that that's roughly about 75 million, maybe a little bit more, but about 75 million for year one for just on subscriptions. And then if we look at the box product
sub, there's no
revenue,
way.
And you assume 60% are going to pay the base price and about 40% would pay this heroic version. Blended together, this is roughly about 65 million. So 65 plus 75 is what? Okay, so this puts us at round
Video
about
cuts, I love
million.
it.
And if we divide this by 4, we roughly get to about our budget for this project. So that's about 35 million. And 35 million makes a lot of sense. And I kind of...
But like you would cut that in half realistically because they're probably not doing a separate sub. I think a lot of us agree they're not doing that, right? So if you want to do the numbers, and also the 60-40 split seems kind of scuffed too. But I mean, who am I to say, really? This guy has way more knowledge than I do. So maybe I'm the idiot here. But I feel like there's no way they're doing a separate sub, and I think the 60-40 number seems kind of crazy too, like, to be honest.
I know what 35 million can buy you. I think what's less clear for me when I think about the number 35 million is whether or not they get to leverage a whole bunch of stuff that exists on the retail infrastructure and retail teaming. So the way that retail is set up with their teams and everything. So whereas when I think about 35 million and how much that could get me in terms of headcount and, you know, timeline and how much we could ramp the team to, or total team size, they might actually be able to benefit a little bit more because they might have more people on shared services for things like QA or DevOps or, you know, anything like that that's kind of shared between retail and already is like trained and operating and stuff. Whereas they don't actually have to go out and staff or train a new team into doing their own separate setup. Despite them being on different SKUs and different pricing models and stuff, you can still benefit from a lot of the back-end infrastructure shared between retail and Classic Plus, which is why this makes a ton of sense anyways. The other thing that's really clever that I'm noticing more, so a lot of people have been really thinking, oh, you know, they've moved up BlizzCon from November to September, and we've got this like leaked roadmap document, you know, whatever. It's obviously going to be at September this year. Why did they move?
I actually haven't done much theory crafting as to why they moved the BlizzCon date. I just assumed it was something completely unrelated. Like, they haven't had many BlizzCons in the last 5 years. So this time, like, the actual date itself was less important. So they just kind of like booked it when they could, and like the dates made sense. But like, now that he said that, there probably is a reason they moved it up. There probably is something. There's a conflicting con at the center. Oh, really? Is that literally it? So that's what I assumed. Is that GTA 6 in November? Oh. Okay, that's kind of what I assumed. Is that there was something else happening and they just moved it. Like I haven't done much theory crafting as like the dates of like certain drops and stuff like that. Porsche, thanks for the tier 1 sub. They moved it because of Kai's birthday. Dude, actually, funny enough, November 5th is my son's birthday, and like BlizzCon's usually like November 3rd and 4th or something. And I was thinking about this. So like I actually missed BlizzCon 3 years ago because my son was born, or like almost 3 years ago now. Because my son was born, and I was like, wait, if it's gonna be on November 5th every year, like I can't go. Like obviously Kai's birthday trumps BlizzCon, right? So it's like, dang, like that timing, like we'll just miss it forever then. Until he's old enough to maybe go for one of his birthdays, that could be cool. But I was like, dang, that kind of sucks. But anyways, when they moved it, I was like, yes, Blizzard. So maybe they did move BlizzCon for me, or I guess for Kai, because his birthday. Now that is a good theory. That's a good theory. I didn't even think of that.
Move it, like they moved it because they, you know, all this stuff.
And they moved it because of Kai's birthday.
There's a lot of reasons to move BlizzCon. I mentioned this maybe in the comments or somewhere else, but you know, moving BlizzCon up from the November date that it used to be.
Oh, Swifty, thank you for the raid, man. I missed the raid. I appreciate that. I've been watching the streams from the truck. It's absolutely legendary. Thank you, man. Hope you're doing well.
Makes it a lot more sense. Or maybe it was October. I don't know. But maybe moving BlizzCon up to September actually just makes a ton more sense when it comes to what you can use BlizzCon for from a product standpoint. So now that it's in September, you can use this as your own marketing beat to preview stuff that is going to come out more like in November. November and December, like the holiday timing for games, is super important. It's very competitive, but also it's such a peak for gaming. It's when people want to play. And that also gives time for more marketing to follow in behind it, for players to like learn about something, get more information, get hyped, and then make a buying decision based on whatever that is. So I really do see an announce happening at BlizzCon in September. That would make the most sense. And then they lead into a release that's somewhere, it has to be before that holiday window, I think, if it's going to come out this year. They want players to be able to get their hands on Classic Plus to have that really nice holiday time. And you saw this with Classic, right? Classic did the same sort of thing. SOD was also similar. It was a little bit late, I think. It was like later on in November, but it was still falling in this like holiday window. And the other thing also I want to mention that I haven't heard people say about this is how this fits into the larger Microsoft thing.
I'm a little nervous with the release dates personally, because if Blizzard launches this thing and then after launches Wrath, I think the timing of that kind of sucks, because Wrath is just so good. People love Wrath and people are going to want to play Wrath. So like launching Classic Plus and then a Wrath, like that leaked timeline shows that Wrath launches like a month or two later. Like that would just, like, would you guys be as upset as me if Classic Plus comes out and a month later Wrath launches? Like that would just suck, right? Like, maybe I'm the only one, but like, I think it would be awful. Instead, what I would rather see is Wrath, like let TBC play out, and then re-release Wrath, and then let Wrath play out. Let people enjoy it. Like, it's really good. Like, let people get in there, right? And then launch Classic Plus. Like, that's what I would like to see. But if that's the case, I mean, how long of TBC do we have left? What month is it? Yeah, and then Wrath is another 6 months. Like, that would be like what, like mid next year? Which, like, to be honest, I would like to play Classic Plus sooner. But if that's the timeline that makes the most sense, like, I don't know. I mean, the other alternative is they pull a SOD, right? And we know with SOD, they like, it was BlizzCon 2023, and they're like, by the way, we've been working on Season of Discovery, and you can play starting tomorrow, or what was it, like next week. It was like, what? Are you kidding me? And it was like so fun, right? Like that was crazy. So they could do something like that.
The financial, like the fiscal year reporting for Microsoft, I think Q2 starts October 1st. So
a lot of people in the chat are saying just skip Wrath. This is why they're not skipping Wrath. Like, okay, I guess I don't know, but this is why I don't think they're skipping Wrath. Just look at the numbers. This was the first time Blizzard launched Classic, TBC, and Wrath for weekly raters. Classic, TBC, Wrath. TBC and Classic did really well. Wrath just did really well. People love Wrath. Rating numbers, keep in mind, not players, which is different. More people rate in Wrath than in Classic, for example. But still, it did really well. Now, look at weekly TBC raters right now, currently on TBC Anniversary, 277,000 over the last week. That is crazy good when you keep in mind TBC the first time around on a similar week had like 311. I think, like, I don't know, somewhere. I think somewhere around here is where we'd be. So if TBC the second time around somehow retained, you know, let's call it like 80% of what it had the first time around, we could then assume that like the Wrath re-release numbers would also be like really darn good, which means pretty darn profitable, which means Blizzard's gonna launch Wrath. Like, let's be honest. Like, there's no way they just skip it. There's no, like it's gonna happen, right? Like, let's be honest. Like just look at the numbers. It's gonna, like, Wrath is gonna happen. So, anyway, if we assume Wrath is gonna happen, then how do we schedule Classic Plus around it? You would have to wait till it's over. If you do it first, it's such a buzzkill. That's my take.
Fiscal reporting and corporate structures doesn't follow the calendar year. So for Microsoft, I think their Q1 starts earlier, like more in the summer, but then their Q2, which is the holiday quarter, that starts October 1st. The funny and interesting thing about BlizzCon is that you can announce something at BlizzCon, run the pre-orders, but the revenue actually cashes out in Q2. And then also you get any sort of like subscription for any sort of gaming that would happen inside of Q2. So having a business model for Classic Plus where it's getting announced at BlizzCon in September, it's getting all hyped up, and then there's a release like maybe October or early November, and it kind of flows through that holiday season. You get to get the majority of that 140 million in the conservative case paying out in Q2, which really benefits Microsoft, especially Microsoft's new CEO, to show like a huge win when it comes to revenue this year. And it lands in the right quarter. And that's more important than I think people give it credit for.
Interesting. Like I said, I haven't done much theory crafting on like why the BlizzCon date was moved. Maybe it does have to do with quarters. I like I said, I assume that the venue is like booked. They haven't done a lot of BlizzCons in the last 7 years because of COVID and then other stuff, right? So I just assumed it's like, all right, we're just gonna move it this year. But maybe it's much deeper.
And it kind of makes sense why they would want, you know, BlizzCon to be up. Because otherwise they're doing this like day and day thing, like, oh, we're announcing it, but also it's available because BlizzCon is so late into Q2. But pulling BlizzCon out of Q2 makes a lot of sense.
Or
I think it doesn't make any sense for it to be available immediately at BlizzCon because it would land in Q1, first of all. But also you're kind of competing with this like back to school timing. People don't have as much time, or players don't have as much time for gaming in the back to school window. It's kind of like this timing that a whole bunch of publishers tend to dance around. So instead they're going to use that as like a marketing window, and then the release timing comes after. I did see like some people are talking about.
Is anyone else thinking like school is like maybe less relevant these days? Because if you're playing WoW, you're either like old enough to be not in school anymore, or like maybe you're a dropout, or like, you know, maybe, yeah, you're probably like older, maybe not.
On leaks and stuff that it's going to come out like 3 or 4 weeks later. That wouldn't be a bad timing window, to be honest. I don't know anything about whether these leaks are credible, but if you just look at the business model and the math, it could make sense that the announce happens at BlizzCon in September, pre-orders go live.
Oh, you guys are saying because the kids have school? Yeah, fair enough.
And then it drops like 3 or 4 weeks later in October, and you get a lot of time.
But the kids being at school would give you more free time. And
the subscriptions and all the payout and everything.
My son's only 2.
And you have this monstrous Q2.
Haven't done that math yet.
For Microsoft, which would be great for them. I think it's now time we talk about Season of Discovery, because Season of Discovery is a big indication that they're going to be doing this for obvious reasons. But from a development standpoint, I think it's one of the smartest things I've seen a company do. I think it either represents the green light approval justification in proof, or, which would be even sharper, is if SOD is actually the pre-production model for guaranteeing the production pipelines and content roadmap for Classic Plus. So what do I mean by this? There's a few different ideas that you need to kind of get up to speed on to understand fully what I mean here. One of them is the content roadmap, which I think people are familiar with. What are all the different beats that we want to have for the game over like 6 months or a year? So some sort of roadmap that stretches out into the future that says like, here's the things we want to be doing. When you level up that content roadmap, the way that you do it is you tend to break it down into types of content. So if you have dungeons, right? We're going to have like 4 dungeons come out through the year and they each take a quarter. We're going to have one big raid come out every 6 months. We're going to have like new zones once a year or something. And then we're going to have like items every 2 weeks. Whatever that might be, right? But you can structure your content into like these tiers of releases or rhythms. And for the live games I've worked on, one of the biggest efficiencies you can get is by creating a team that is totally self-sufficient, like a multidisciplinary team that can do everything that they need to do for the most part. And they are hyper-focused on getting into their rhythm for the content development, matching their content roadmap. So if you have a dungeon that takes 6 months, like every dungeon takes 6 months, but we want to be having a dungeon come out every quarter. What that means is you kind of need 2 dungeon teams, right? You need a dungeon team that takes 6 months and then they can release it. And the other one's like halfway through development and then they're getting ready to release theirs 3 months later.
That's kind of like how, this may be a poor example. It's like very different, I guess, but it's kind of like how Treyarch and Activision built Call of Duties for like years. They like went back and forth. I don't know if they still do it this way. I remember doing this as a kid, like Modern Warfare 2 and like World at War, or Modern Warfare 1, and then like, World at War and then Modern Warfare 2. And like they kind of went back and forth to get to like 2 years. Oh, Infinity Ward, yeah. That's interesting. How often would you guys expect and want content in Classic Plus? When I say content, I mean like a new tier, like a retail, like new raid, new dungeon, new like stuff to do every day. Nice. Every like 3 to 6 months, people are saying. Like to keep the game, like you want to log in, you want to do something, right? Retail does 6 month. Retail, I think, does a mini patch every 3 and then a big patch every 6. So it's like big patch, mini patch, big patch, mini patch kind of a thing, where they have like the 0.5 patches and like the big ones with the new content. So like maybe, I mean, if they could match that, yeah, that'd be good.
So the content roadmap doesn't dictate how long things take to develop and vice versa. What it means is if this is the ideal cadence for when you should be releasing things, you need to fit your team and your rhythms so that the development team takes as long as it needs to for it to be the right quality, and that development is sustainable and matches the SOD is a real mix of things. They had some interesting dungeons, some interesting raids. They had some new stuff. They also had that weird zone in Ashenvale and all that stuff. But why did they do all that? Like, why did they try all these different kinds of things? And I mean, sure, on the surface, you're trying to figure out like, do players even like this stuff? So that's one. How hard is it to change it? Because they're changing something that exists previously, right? So that's another thing you can learn. The biggest thing we could learn there when I look at this as a producer is like, we can justify or just totally measure how long it takes to build certain types of content. We can really stand on that number and know with lens like this is a real number. This specific team, not like a team, this specific team took this long to do this thing and they feel like they could do it again in this amount of time. Also, when I look at SOD, I think the first 2 phases were really clearly planned, and then kind of at maybe 3 also, maybe a little bit of 3. But anything after that felt a little bit ad hoc. It was almost like they were surprised how much success happened with phase 1 and 2, or maybe within the business they'd only committed to phase 1 and 2, and then when the rest of the phases were like ready to develop for, it was almost like they were kind of scrambling a bit. I just had this feeling playing it.
Bro, imagine you're Blizzard and you launch SOD phase 1 and you just have that meeting the next day and you're just like Yo, there's like millions of people playing this right now. Whoa. Like, like that was probably like nuts. And then like that same meeting a couple months later in phase 3, and they're just like, oh crap. Yeah. Emerald Dream, I don't know about these incursions. Dang it,
externally. I don't know if it's true or not, but it definitely gave them the opportunity to try a whole bunch of different stuff and see player reception and expectations, cost it, like figure out what it costs to make it, different disciplines, like how do you form that team around it, what is a reliable velocity and sustainable velocity for that channel, and then all of that gets to inform your content roadmap, both in terms of what players would want in a content roadmap and also what is sustainable on the. It's genius. It's really genius. And also hidden in there too is that they got to like find the extents, like they got to find the limits of the design space. So they pushed on a bunch of stuff. A lot of people didn't like certain things, right? So you get.
I'm like vaguely remembering an interview on YouTube with like a Grend, and he basically, I can't remember exactly. I'm like paraphrasing from a year ago, but like, I think the content cadence in SOD was screwed up. And what I mean by that is like, phase 1 and 2 were out, and like phase 1 came out and they were like working on phase 2. Like they weren't like planned that far ahead. Phase 3 was out, like phase 3 was just kind of like they said it, like they were scrambling. Phase 8 was never supposed to happen. It was supposed to end with phase 7, and then they're like last minute, they're like, you know what, like let's actually build phase 8, which by the way ended up being my favorite phase, like and most people that actually played it, so it's like kind of crazy that's the case. But my point is, I think the content cadence was really messed up for SOD. I don't think it was like this nicely planned thing. I think it was like a bunch of scrambling. They were always 3 steps behind. Phase 3 went on way longer than they wanted it to because phase 4 wasn't ready. Then they launched phase 4 not really ready, and they were scrambling with phase 5. Like it was probably just a mess, and it was still really fun. But I think I would hope with Classic Plus, like it's not as much of a mess. They've had time to think this through. Hopefully there's like a nice cadence. Hopefully there's good content being built, and it's not just like a bunch of scrambling like it was in SOD. I hope that's not too much copium. I hope that's reality.
To kind of see like how far is too far before it doesn't feel like Classic anymore. I think the rune system, I have a lot to say about the rune system because I don't think it's perfect. And I think they also knew it wasn't perfect going in, but it also forced like a really interesting question out of the player base, which is like, is this a step too far? Like, did they go too far? What is the acceptable amount that you can pull in from retail, that the players will accept and not totally rebel against? Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting things I think that they did with SOD, and you can't just say, oh, it was like, they did it for fun or whatever. There is some brutal, cold, calculated corporate math.
So yeah, Creatures Fan 72 says the rune system was a workaround for adding spells into the client. There was like, once again, this was from like a year ago, some interview. I'm gonna paraphrase this wrong, but like Creatures Fan 72, that's pretty much what I remember. Is the rune system was a creative workaround because of some limitation. That was kind of it. It's why they never touched the talent trees. Catch, do you remember what interview that was from? Because I feel like I'm re-remembering this. It was from a while ago, but it wasn't like like the rune system wasn't necessarily like an intended system. It was just like a workaround for something. And it was like, this is how it's gonna be then, So really interesting to think about that.
Behind SOD, and it was done for a very specific reason. The reasons to me I feel are quite obvious. It's an information gathering exercise, and it wasn't a loss leader. Like it did well on its own. So you got to like benefit.
I think it was a blue post actually,
well, and also inform everything.
I think it was. Sorry to pause the video. I think it was a blue post actually. It was like that really long blue post from a Grend. They got into the technicalities of why they had to do certain things. That's what it was, right? It was like a super long blue post, and they were basically saying they couldn't tweak talent trees or something with the back end coding with the way it overlapped with Era because they're using existing infrastructure, so they had to add in runes. It's like coming back to me. It was like something like that.
Thing that comes afterwards. It's really smart. So all props to Agren and his team. I think SOD was extremely well done, even if the decisions that are in SOD won't even be seen in Classic Plus. I'm seeing some videos now. People are talking about like, oh, what are the things that we need to keep from SOD or leave behind? That's important. You know, that's important for sure. But people are talking about like specifics on the features or like the nitty gritty player facing stuff. I think the things that Agron and his team are looking at is like which content models were sustainable, which are the ones that we want to have regularly in the roadmap. And I say content models, I mean like, you know, cadence for systems, content, features, whatever. And how can they build their content roadmap based on this? How can they build their development team to be sustainable based on it? That's what was really going on there. So I think this is a good exercise, right? Put on that lens of like, how would you then interpret the abstract shape of the content, features, systems into teams that would then be structured so that Classic Plus has the same bones, right? That's something they're doing right now. So when I look at the like schedule for how SOD went, I think what I would probably assume is that the actual green light for the project happened probably after phase 2, sometime after phase 2 of Season of Discovery. Classic Plus had probably been pitched a lot in the leadership team.
Sounds about right.
Just within Blizzard, you know, for a while before that. But you go into like Season of Discovery, and then you see all the success that Season of Discovery has. I think there's some time after phase 2 that it takes for going back through the approvals process and pitching a project like this and getting corporate approval on green light for money takes time. It can sometimes take like months. So, you know, for phase 2 to end in the spring or whatever, 2024, and then it's like maybe another quarter or something like that before the money's approved. Maybe they got the green light, you know, January 2025. Maybe they got the green light more like September 2024. And then they're starting to work on stuff in parallel with the Season of Discovery team, which I could totally see. But then
I always assumed that they started relatively soon to the blue post where they stopped working on SOD. But maybe that's just, maybe they, hopefully they started sooner. When was that blue post? I have it right here. This was like mid 2025. May 27th, 2020. I assumed it was like mid 2025. So like, if that's the case, they've been like, this was the blue post. So let's say like maybe a month or 2 before this, or maybe 3. That means they'd be working on like a year and a half ish. That's a conservative estimate too. So like, it's probably sooner. Hopefully it's sooner. But like, this is basically when they literally told us we're not working on SOD. The future for SOD is bittersweet. We've made a decision to slow down on SOD and begin work on our next major product. So like, here's where they say they're beginning work on it. So hopefully, yeah, it was at least a few months before this. So like minimum would be like, yeah, like a year and a half.
And, you know, sometime early 2025, maybe like February, March, April, May.
Oh yeah, and then Agren had a tweet where he said he got a job promotion. And he said, hey guys, I'm no longer... I forgot what it said. Like I'm making new content on Classic now is basically what it said on Twitter. And then I was like, oh, Classic Plus confirmed. And everyone's like, Czar's on Copium. And it's like, where you guys at now? Okay. Anyway, that might be a good timeline as well.
Whatever. I forget exactly when Agron was saying like their team is starting to like wind down Season of Discovery.
Yeah,
and
that
work
was
on something
May.
New and exciting in the Classic design space. That public announcement probably is not the same time as the actual shift. So I would sort of expect that the team had already been working before that. So yeah, I think the timeline looked like something where they pitched it initially. They got a conditional approval for Season of Discovery, for what Season of Discovery is. And then Season of Discovery goes bonkers. They sort of like finally try to pick up the pieces and do the math on it, you know, after phase 2. They go back into the project pitching to get more on this conditional approval and then stretch this into a full project greenlight. That maybe takes a quarter. And then you've got somewhere like late summer 2024, a small team starts in parallel to Season of Discovery, or maybe they're doing this like halftime or something. And then that starts to spin up and end its pre-production, whatever they need to still figure out. I think people start to roll onto the project in full at the start of 2025 and ramp from, again, I'm going to say like 20 people January.
This timeline makes about sense.
I think 75 is more like the real number. I'm hoping it's more like 75, not 50. From a player standpoint, I'd really like that to be 75. Okay, so let's get back to the 35 million number, right? So 35 million is the budget for the project. How does that...
Realistically, it's like half that if we're assuming there's no separate sub fee. Like I'm thinking more like Like if his number divided by 4 approval number is correct, like I would still put no separate sub.
Breakdown, at least for me, the way that I tend to do this, or I've tended to do this in organizations, is that you look at the big number like 35 million, and then you start to convert that into available man months is the term.
Man months.
So a man month is where you have a working person's month. You want to normalize that figure by what the organization pays for people's time. This fluctuates quite a bit by role. The best way you can do this to understand like a baseline for a project is take a blended rate. So what is the blended cost of generally what it costs for any?
Okay, so someone in the chat says 17 million to make Classic Plus. Oof. Let's just do a quick brainstorm right now. How much money would it actually take to make a really good Classic Plus? Like the way I'm thinking about it is like we already have Classic. Turtle Wow did it with a small team. Like I don't know if it actually takes that much money. Am I there's like server cost 10 million. Like I don't know if it's actually, because like okay, so when you develop like a new MMO, like we're talking like 200 to 300 million bucks for a lot of these things. They're super expensive. It takes a long time, but like you already have the world, you have the IP. Yeah, you want to build new you want to build new raids, you want to build new dungeons, you want to build these like new encounters, these new quests, these new experiences. Yeah, I don't know how much something like that would cost. But to me, it's like it's not like building a new MMO. It's not like, oh, let's build a new MMO with 10 million bucks. Like, yeah, good luck. You'll never do that. But Classic Plus is like the foundation's already so set, right? I don't know. It's a good mental exercise to think like how much money would it actually take to build like a really good Classic Plus.
Headcount in the studio. That's a total number, not just what you pay them, but it also includes like hardware, insurance, whatever, benefits and things like that. Blizzard is based in California. This number is actually quite high. It's one of the highest. I think it's something like in and around 30, maybe 33,000, something like that. For our math, I just want to use the number 30,000. So we should assume that Blizzard pays 30,000 per month for the blended average, any head count on the team. And we can figure out what is the raw total man month budget. And what you get is, I'm looking at the calculator.
Wait, did I hear that right? It's 30,000 a month? What?
You get 1,166 and some change. So that's not too bad. So a project would start billing whenever it gets approved, and we talked about the approval a little bit before, and then it would start with a smaller team that then ramps up to the full-size team. We can make some assumptions about when the team would need to be full-sized, I think, based on the finaling run. So if this is coming out in October, and like we said before, if we have SOD as the test case or the reference case, then we already know quite a lot about what it takes to create content and also specifically to finalize and settle the content in the game, fix bugs, prep stuff for launch. And maybe we only need 3 months, we only need 3 months where the team is at full peak and we're finaling the game and getting it ready. So if you back off from October, we've got October, September, August, July. They might only be reaching their total project height on the team this month, which is kind of crazy. They might be going alpha this month or beta, whatever their internal milestone namings are. I think they would probably be at some point where all the features or all the systems are now locked in place, at least for stuff that goes live in October. If they're still working on any sort of features or system changes or code changes to that, like major code changes, those would probably be for patch 1, patch 2, whatever. So they're already starting to splinter off parts of their team into the majority of the team that's doing the finaling. And then there's like small parts of the team that are getting ready the next patch. Because the launch is in October, you can't only be thinking about the launch in October. That only gets you the launch. And then you're kind of playing catch up constantly after the launch if you've only prepped everything for launch.
That's kind of what happened with SOD, I think.
Teams already working on what's patch 1, what's patch 2, and getting into some kind of maybe like a leapfrog team setup where they have like a patch team, some kind of leapfrog, and maybe separate channels or separate teams where they're working on long-term systemic updates that are iterative and sequential. But the content cycle probably is in some kind of leapfrog model like they do for the expansions on Retail WoW, where one expansion team doesn't then go work on the second expansion after it. You have like one expansion team and then another, and then they're sort of like leapfrogging each other.
Right. Yeah.
So they get a longer development per expansion, and the next one is already like halfway in development when
I think he means
Midnight's
patch
been released. But Last Titan is like halfway through development, if not maybe more. and they just keep doing this model. It's quite sustainable. They may not
separate to what he's saying here. Someone in the chat asked earlier this morning, do you want there to be expansions in Classic Plus? Like, should they move it to TBC Plus and then Wrath Plus and stuff like that? And it's like, no way, right? Then it's not Classic Plus anymore, and we just lost what we've gained. Like, absolutely not, right? Like, keeping it Kalimdor Eastern Kingdoms, keeping the 60 level cap, like, that's paramount for it to be Classic Plus. Once you start shipping expansions, it's like, all right, no. Why would you ever want to do that? I mean, they were asking the question, right? So I agree. Absolutely not. Has to be Azeroth, 100%.
have the exact full team. You know, I see they're still hiring for some people on LinkedIn. There's still some Classic Plus, or not Classic Plus. That'd be funny. No, there's still some Classic, jobs listed for the Classic team, which there's a content designer listing right now, which is an interesting one. And then we saw the SOD team start to peel off from supporting SOD back, what would that have been, like 2025, start of 2025? So let's say they got up to like 20 people for January 1st, 2025. So then they would have like 18 months to go from about 20 people to roughly about 50 people. That's actually not a bad team size increase. Those team size changes can be really impactful and dramatic because, there's like all this common knowledge about like if you add a whole bunch of people to a project or some of the people on a team, that's effectively just a new team. You need to do like team building stuff and everything from scratch. So there's like a real team risk or business risk that comes with scaling a team too quickly.
Profit, thanks for the 10 gifted, brother.
I think going from 20 to 50 over 18 months is actually really reasonable. It's nice. It seems to fit. And we can do the math on that too.
Okay.
We don't need to know exactly when people start. We can just kind of average it out. So going from 20 to 50 by today and then 50 until October, what's that man month head count? And that number is, going from 20 to 50 over 18 months and then 50 for the last run here to October. That gets you to about 660 man months. That's actually not as much as I was expecting. They've still got a lot of headroom. So we said this number that was more like 1160. I guess you could be spending a whole bunch of these man months, or the budget rather, on things like outsourcing or co-dev, which is totally possible. I know that they have infrastructure at Blizzard to be able to do a whole bunch of new content, spin up a whole bunch of stuff with partners. Interestingly, also because they're part of Microsoft and Activision, they could also be getting some sort of like co-dev within the organization. So insourcing, they could be getting loan, engineers or artists or whatever that might be compatible with the project who can moonlight until the launch or whatever. That would be a really nice way to maybe get a reduction on the cost for a man month as well. It's kind of all in the same bucket. I feel like, let me run these numbers again, because we might actually be able to justify 75, and if 75 feels like the right number anyways. Okay, so yeah, when I run it at 75, it's actually more like 800. So 800 man months.
It almost feels like we're watching a live stream, like watching his thought process as it's happening versus a YouTube video. He's like, let me run these again.
For a 75 person team, and then we do year one. It could be 75.
All right. Huh.
So if the project got greenlit and they got their billing code as of January 2025, and they started with about 20, let's say.
Sounds about right.
And they ramp all the way up to 75 by today, and they have 75 from now till launch and continuing after launch. It really stays within the budget that gives you like a 4 to 5 times return on the conservative estimate of 1 million players that come at launch and then stay at a retention rate that matches either Classic or SOD. For
75 seems like a lot.
That doesn't include the year one development costs. I don't know if they would need to somehow also justify that in the business case, because you need to pay those development maintenance costs over year one also while you're getting the year one revenue. But just in terms of getting to the launch point with the dev costs, that's actually really nice. And it does leave space for things like outsourcing. I'm not factoring in so much like marketing spend and stuff like that. I really don't know how much Blizzard or Activision or Microsoft would spend in marketing. It's probably a lot. It's probably more than I'm used to. I'm used to seeing something like 20%, 20 to 30%, depending on the title. At that number, it does still fit within that big number, the 1,200 man months we talked about for budget. So it really is a feasible, plausible project to fit within a conservative estimate at a leveraged multiplier. So it makes it more of like margin acceptable portfolio case for.
I love how it's like 40 minutes of talking to get to like a conclusion of like, yeah, like Classic Plus could work. Like you could actually do that. Yeah, the numbers do check out. It's like, I love it, man. I hope you guys are as invested as I am.
Microsoft that they would
so
even
good.
like greenlight this project.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a really safe project in that sense.
Yeah.
You can do a lot with 75 people. 75 people is good. I think 50 would maybe be not enough people, where you don't have as many channels for new content or for stuff that would be offerings in the content roadmap. I have a feeling like the player base would be disappointed with a team that was only like 50. But at a number more like 75, you kind of end up more like the expansion sized teams. And I think we're expecting more like an expansion sized offering, have a content roadmap that follows. I don't know if we're going to get into like expansion style drops, but
I hope
just
not.
having sort of that amount of force, you know, that amount of energy, development energy going into the title, I think that's what players expect. I think we would expect nothing less than an expansion team working on Classic. So hopefully this makes a lot of sense to you guys. I know that this is really not as spicy or interesting as talking about like features and stuff.
I think it's interesting, bro.
But just looking at the math, I feel like it's a safe enough play that it would like pass through a lot of the gates that would happen at a corporate level or business level to even justify doing this project in the first place versus doing something else new. Now, another question you could ask is like, where do they even find these people, right? Because you have the whole team on retail. Presumably, you also don't want to impact retail at all, other than maybe benefiting from some of the shared services, you know, dev infrastructure or whatever. But you don't want to impact the teams on retail. You want them to keep doing their thing. They have a lot of big plans, it seems, when it comes to Last Titan. And, you know, people are talking about WoW 2.0 or whatever. That's retail,
a good point.
right?
That's a good point.
You don't want to touch retail. So where do the people come from for the 75?
Because like we've been looking at the job listings, right? Have we seen 75 new job listings with Classic Plus? I know I've seen one. I think I saw one. Maybe one guy's gonna build it. Either that or they're hiring under the guise of something else. I've seen 5 max. Yeah, I was like, I don't know, because if we've seen more of these, I know people would have linked them to me. You guys, I know, spam linked me one. It was the other month on like a UI guy. I mean, it could be one guy that started last month. I mean, either that or like we're gonna get, yeah, I don't know. Or they hired under like, okay, it was kind of like a veil, right? Well, it's probably the case.
Here's an interesting thing. We had Odyssey, which was a project that was in development at Blizzard. I think you can expect that if people were retained from Odyssey, then if they fit, I think people would have moved over to this project early on. And then you also have the cancellation of Rumble. And I think the same thing applies, right? The leadership for both of those projects didn't stick around. So like, doesn't seem like anyone from the leadership side for either Rumble or Odyssey stuck. So that kind of tells you a few things also, right? It tells you that the existing project setups have their secure, like in place leadership. So Classic Plus has really like, you know, shored up their leadership suite. And really they're just looking for people to join the team into like the teams or in special roles. It would have made sense that Odyssey and Rumble team members that were retained would have joined any projects within Blizzard, but definitely Classic Plus to help that ramp up. I think it's not.
Are you guys up to date on the news he's talking about with Odyssey and Rumble? Were those the layoffs from last week? I would assume that he's talking about the layoffs from last week, but I didn't actually follow that. No idea. No, you guys don't. Okay, yeah, we'll have to figure out what's going on there.
Reasonable to think that there's a 75-person team today at Blizzard working on Classic Plus, and we wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even be able to see it in the numbers in a quarterly anything. You know, it's pretty easy to do that. And like I said before too, if you're using stuff like insourcing, or if you have partnerships and you're doing any sort of like codev or outsourcing, you can really get a lot of work done with this kind of budget and in that amount of time. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we start to move on from here, right? But some of the assumptions I want to make sure we bring forward, I think it's clear to me that the case really only starts to make sense if Classic Plus has the box product launch, which I feel like everyone can agree on. But I feel like the thing maybe that still spicy take that maybe makes more sense when you hear stuff like this, I could see it being a separate subscription and not being folded into the existing subscription.
I
But
disagree
having a
still.
separate subscription would just be really smart. You probably keep some amount of people. Like the calculus you need to do here is like some number of people are going to keep both retail and Classic Plus, and some people are just going to choose one or the other. And I have a feeling that once you do that math, you're like, okay, it makes sense, and it's probably an acceptable outcome. The split, you know, not cannibalization necessarily, but like the split of like what you end up with is probably reasonable, and it probably is a benefit. I guess if you only care about one and you're only playing Classic anyways and you're not playing retail anyways, what's the difference, right? It's kind of no difference. It's probably only upside.
No, there's no, from the player POV, I feel like there's no way they do this. That would be shocking. And if they did it, how would they split it up? Would Classic Era still be under retail? Or would they move Classic Plus, Classic Era, and TBC all to like a Classic sub, and then retail has its own sub? And that would be different too. I don't know how, like, maybe they would do that. Ooh, maybe they would do that. Maybe they would split the subs to a retail sub and a Classic sub. Classic gives you all the classics, retail gives you retail. Maybe they would do that. I still don't think they would. I still don't think they would.
Okay, we're going to look at design stuff next. I think after this, we're going to go into project leadership in the next video, and how the project leadership would try to answer all the questions that they need to make sure that the project can be successful, get it running through early pre-production, get it ready for production. So we're still in the past.
Sorry to mute it again, or pause again, but someone in the chat said that you could bundle it for a price. So like it would be like 15 a month for retail, maybe like 12 a month for the classic bundle to get all the classics. Or if you wanted to do, you know, 23 a month, you would get everything. That maybe they actually would do that. Maybe they would. I don't know. Now he's making me think. I still don't. I mean, that would be a massive shift from their current model. I guess it would be not that massive. It would be like a moderate shift from their current model.
But we're quickly catching up to the present. Like I said, I think they're already finaling, would be my hunch, if they're going to be coming out in October. It feels like an October release would make a lot of sense. So it's not confirmed or anything, but we just need to make some of these assumptions to be able to do the math, right? So let's assume October. Cool. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. It's quite different. This is like not the kind of this is like not the kind of content I expected to be making on this channel, but you guys asked for it. So if you guys liked it, let me know.
Liked it.
Like and subscribe. Obviously that really helps. But leave some comments. I like the comments the most. I like to hear what you guys think. You know, positive, negative, if you guys agree or not, if you think I'm dumb, you know, if you like my mustache, do whatever you want. But
mustache is good. I feel like this is the kind of guy that I could just sit there talking about classic WoW over dinner for like hours, just like rambling on about a bunch of stuff that might never happen, but like it's still just like a really fun conversation. I really enjoyed that. I hope you guys did too. This guy's name is Dave on Dev. I'll go ahead and link the video in Twitch and on YouTube. Thank you guys for the suggestion. Basically, when I do these reacts every day, it's just from a bunch of you guys linking it in like Discord or like on stream, so that owns. And I just kind of like make a watch later of it. I actually didn't plan to watch this whole 45-minute video, but I was invested, so definitely solid.